All right, Steve, let's do a little quarterback dominoes because the number one domino, Jared Curtis, is headed to Georgia. So that leaves me with one simple question. Where does Oregon go next?
Well, the obvious answer is 5-star On3 Industry, 5-star Rider Lions. Now, Georgia had been recruiting Jared Curtis since he was a freshman, and I think in the end, those were some of the inches that added up that allowed Georgia to win the recruitment for Jared Curtis. Well, Oregon has been on Rider Lions since he was a freshman at Folsom High, one of the top dual-threat quarterbacks in the country. And I think that relationship, the way Oregon plays offensively, proximity to home, and just the excitement around the Ducks program. I moved my On3 RPM from USC to Oregon yesterday.
Yeah, that was a shocker.
Jared Curtis's announcement. And I'm hearing, talking to sources, that Oregon and BYU are the top two for Rider Lions. Now, he's still going through his process. That doesn't mean USC couldn't slingshot back around to the top of the list, or it doesn't mean that Ole Miss or a Michigan or Ohio State, 3 other programs that he visited in the spring, can't become more relevant with official visits down the road. But I like where Oregon and BYU stand. I needed to move my prediction. And I'm riding with Dan Lanning, Will Stein in the Ducks for Rider Lions because I think that's the stage he could really see himself playing on, competing for championships. They're the Big Ten champs. The Big Ten was the best league in college football. Oregon won the regular season title. Ohio State won the national title. But Oregon's offense, the efficiency of the quarterback, the last couple quarterbacks have ranked among the most efficient quarterbacks in the country. They've been one of the most statistically prolific quarterbacks in the country. Bo Nix goes in the first round. Dylan Gabriel, ultimate leader, field general, goes in the third round after being a Heisman finalist himself. Rider Lions, and Bo Nix was a Heisman finalist, so you got back-to-back Heisman finalists, elite offense. They're recruiting great players. Oregon, the backing of the program from an infrastructure standpoint, resources. I like where they're at. BYU, the family ties.
Can't rule it
obviously, the faith ties. He's going to take an LDS mission after his senior year of high school. They're very much in it in the program that Oregon's got to watch out for. But if Oregon lands Rider Lions, I'm not sure they take another quarterback in 2026 because you got Dante Moore. He could get you 2 more years.
Yeah, he could, yeah.
You got Novosad from Texas, who had a good end of spring camp.
Yeah, they're high on him.
And Moga, who is just like this outstanding athlete that runs 10-4, that's really developing as a quarterback, a guy that Oregon took a swing on because of his high physical upside. That could really pay off for them in the dual threat game and the way they play offense. And then you got, all 3 of those guys could return next year, and then you got Rider Lions coming in after that if he does indeed choose
2027. All right, so looking at these top 10 quarterbacks, you got Jared Curtis off the board, Faison Brandon off the board, Keyshawn Henderson off the board, Rider Lions, Dia Bell off the board. We get to number 6 in Landon Duckworth, and he was a one-time South Carolina commitment whose stock has really risen. We thought maybe Georgia could turn in that direction if they missed on Jared Curtis. But what is Landon Duckworth's recruitment looking like? I know Ole Miss is involved. What's it looking like now that it kind of clears the way for his recruitment to really start going?
Well, I like where Ole Miss stands for Landon Duckworth right now. Talked to a source about his recruitment early or at the end of last week, and the Rebels are still in pole position for him. South Carolina is the program that I view as the biggest threat to Ole Miss right now because of the success they're having with Lenoris Sellers, kind of the similar play styles that they have, and then the resources that South Carolina pours into. A few top targets cycle in and cycle out, but the visit to Ole Miss, the relationship, Jackson Dart, how he pushed into the first round, Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin, they're having the most success that they've had in program history, looking to build on that. They have the number 16 recruiting class in the country right now. They just landed on 300 running back Demarius Yates, a big pickup for them over the weekend. I like the way it's trending for Landon Duckworth right now for Lane Kiffin and company, but they're going to have to hold off the Gamecocks. They're going to have to hold off Florida State. He's got a long-standing relationship with Gus Malzahn. Georgia was in play. They're out. They're out of the game. And so you got Florida State, South Carolina, and Auburn. Auburn's the fourth program.
But that kind of shows how these QB dominoes work, right? Because we felt really good about Ole Miss heading into yesterday, but if Georgia misses, they're going to be a major factor for Duckworth. So Ole Miss probably took a little sigh of relief when Jared Curtis went to Georgia.
Right. So Georgia, they had 3 quarterbacks on deck.
Call, yeah.
Bo Bentley, who's the next quarterback
We're
that
going
you
to
want to talk about.
Number 7.
Landon Duckworth, who was going to take an official visit, and then Jaden O'Neal, the number 11 quarterback in the land per the On3 industry. But Georgia is out of the quarterback game, and I think the school that's most excited about that is Florida State,
right?
Because they're in the mix for 2 of these guys right now, and they want to land a top target at the position. They're in the Landon Duckworth sweepstakes, but I would say their best chance of landing a quarterback right now is flipping Jaden O'Neal from Oklahoma.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more about these dominoes. So Landon Duckworth at 6. Bo Bentley now comes into play at number 7. We've talked a lot about LSU here.
Yeah.
Where do you see this shaping up?
Well, LSU's the program that's rising with Bo Bentley. Oklahoma is perceived as the favorite. That's who he grew up rooting for.
But they have a quarterback committed.
Jaden O'Neal. But I think that Coach Arbuckle, the first guy he offered when being hired at Oklahoma was Bo Bentley. Bo Bentley's already been there twice since Coach Arbuckle's been hired. He's been able to talk to Mateer, their quarterback transfer. Yeah. I don't know if there was a program that had more pivotal pickups in the offseason than Oklahoma from getting Coach Arbuckle, who's an absolute stud, the way he carries himself. I talked to some coaches in that building that talked about the addition of Coach Arbuckle and how that is reinvigorating the program. And then Mateer, one coach over there at Oklahoma said he's as good as the guys we've had, and they've had some damn good ones, right? So, and there is no lack of swagger and confidence with Mateer. And Mateer was talking to Bo Bentley about playing against Brent Venables' defense in practice and how that is something that has helped elevate his game. He wasn't playing against Brent Venables' defense at Washington State in practice. So that was an exciting spring for him. The family connection, just the love for Oklahoma. They're in the driver's seat, but LSU, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, the Heisman trophies. If Joe Sloan's in the game, you don't have a better relationship from an offensive coordinator perspective from another school than Joe Sloan's going to have with the top target. So LSU rising fast, the way they develop quarterbacks, all the technology they have in that building that helps quarterbacks be their best version of themselves. They're obviously the threat for Bo Bentley in Oklahoma.
Okay, so Bo Bentley's at 7. Then we go to 8. Jonas Williams, he's locked into USC. Former Oregon commit. That domino fell about 6-8 weeks ago. Brady Smigel off the board to Michigan.
Florida State commit.
And then you got Jake Fetty.
People are trying to flip him.
Hard.
People like LSU, but Kenny Dillingham. I talked about the relationship that Joe Sloan has with top recruits from an offensive coordinator standpoint. Kenny Dillingham, he recruits his ass off from that head coach office, particularly with quarterbacks. So he is all in on Jake Fetty. They were early on Jake Fetty. We have Jake Fetty ranked higher than anybody on 3 in our rankings. And Arizona State, they got one of the top quarterbacks in the country right now in Sam Leavitt, who's going to be a Heisman candidate. They're off a college football playoff appearance. That's what they're looking to get back. They had Texas on the ropes. There's a lot of excitement around that program. I attended a spring practice at Arizona State this spring and saw all the juice and energy and the leadership that Sam Leavitt has. But they're all in on Jake Fetty, and he is locked in with the Sun Devils. That is a big pickup for them as they try and maintain their status in college football as a Big 12 powerhouse. They have the number 1 recruiting class in the Big 12 right now, and Jake Fetty is obviously the jewel.
Yeah. All right, we're not going to go too deep into these dominoes. I just want to leave the top 10 for a second and talk about Jaden O'Neal, who we've kind of hit on. What's going to be the catalyst here for Jaden O'Neal? Is it going to be maybe a Bo Bentley committing to Oklahoma to kind of back him off that commitment, or do you think he's on shaky ground as it stands now?
Well, I think Oklahoma's had to kind of repair some of that relationship a little bit with the way that they offered Bo Bentley and then had some recruiting weekend, had a big recruiting weekend that didn't include Jaden O'Neal, right? So, but Jaden O'Neal's in state now. He's at Mustang, Oklahoma. He continues to have dialogue with the Sooner staff and obviously has a lot of love for the school and the program and Brent Venables as a whole. And that was a big recruiting win for them when they landed him. But with them recruiting Bo Bentley, Jaden O'Neal is like, well, maybe I should see what else is out there. And there's some other schools that love him. Georgia was one of them. I thought that they were the biggest threat to Oklahoma following a spring visit. Now you have Florida State and Auburn, and I guess if I'm hedging, I would lean towards FSU now as the biggest threat. to flip Jaden O'Neal from Oklahoma. And if I was playing out the dominoes and nothing's certain, my guess would still be today that Bo Bentley's a Sooner and Jaden O'Neal's a Knoll. But that doesn't mean it's gospel. So we'll see how it plays out.
Write that with pencil, not pen. Anything can change when it comes to quarterback dominoes.